So what do you see in this video? This is Trump shaking hands with French President Macron. And basically, Benny Johnson, a right-wing influencer, he'll say that Trump is dominating Macron here and that Trump is undefeated. That's from Benny's words. And when I see this stuff, I just want to ask you your opinion. What do you think? Watch it for yourself. What do you think? And this is different than, say, someone like a right-wing influencer, because they'll tell you what to think because they want their followers to be docile and dumb, to be perfectly frank. Listen to Fox News, how they read this event.
A coat and tie. It's usually a flak jacket and a helmet. So an interesting change. As we see the president there with the French President Macron in Sharm el-Sheikh, the leaders of some 35 countries, according to the president, gathering there for a peace summit. Now, there is a bro shake. If ever I've looked, we won't let go. Okay, you let go. No, I'm going to let go. All right, there we go. As they assemble for the class photo there, let's bring in Mark.
So I guess we're talking about bro shakes, and that is the topic. But, you know, again, this is Nick Sorter, another right-wing influencer. He hangs out with Benny, and he describes Macron as being terrified as Trump manhandles him and rips his arm off. Trump's absolutely dominating these dweebs. And if you notice, both Benny and Nick use the word dominating. And if you don't know, these people are basically propagandists for the Trump people. Here's another person, the right-winger. He's saying that this is an awkward handshake and Macron is an embarrassment. But in all of these things, I want you to just literally use your own eyes and tell me what you see. Because this is your ability to read this kind of thing will demonstrate your critical thinking skills here. There's different ways that you can read this. My reading may be different from theirs. I see that Trump wants to take pictures and taking pictures with lots of people. And some, other world leaders may not necessarily want to do that. And it's kind of rude if you're like, push Trump away, hit him or whatever to get out of the handshake. But is it a big deal? Well, it's the handshake itself isn't necessarily the big deal. The big deal is whether or not you're the type of person that needs to be told how to feel and how to think. And as I always tell you guys, you make up your own mind. When Trump tells you that there's zero inflation or Trump tells you that there's $2 gas, you know the truth. Make up your own mind. You know the truth in that. You literally go to the store and you go to the gas station. And the crazy thing that the world that we live in today is some people are easily fooled by the Trumpers, because oftentimes people from other countries ask, how can Trump come to power? These kind of things. It's because of different outlets, right-wing media, basically lie to people nonstop. And they take events that we can all see publicly, say the handshake thing, and they tell people what it means or what they're seeing, even though you can make up your own mind on said stuff. So here's another example and why we're going on this topic today. Prominent news outlets reject Pentagon rules before signing the deadline. So if you don't know, the Pentagon was telling people that you could only report on like approved stories by them, which basically goes against the First Amendment here. And multiple publications actually refused to sign their loyalty pledge. That's, again, the Pentagon's loyalty pledge. Journalists working at the Washington Post, New York Times, and other major news publications will not sign, and that's a good thing, will not sign the Defense Department's restrictive new press policy by Tuesday afternoon's deadline. So this would be the Atlantic, CNN, and The Guardian, along with trade publication Breaking Defense, have also said they will not sign the new agreement. I didn't see any Fox News anywhere here, so maybe they're still thinking about it. Who knows? But then this is a statement from the Washington Post. The proposed restrictions undercut First Amendment protections by placing unnecessary constraints on gathering and publishing information. We will continue to vigorously and fairly report on policies and positions and Pentagon officials and across the government. And I think this is, again, an important story because you want independent news stories, right? You don't want to have a world to where it's like only government approved stuff, because then you're just going to get basically propaganda of like, hey, look at this handshake. He's so strong. OWN, I guess, was the only one at the moment. That's the One American News. It's a right-wing one that signed on to this thing. And this is another example of independent news. So this would be coming from outside the USA. This would be The Guardian, and they're reporting on, right, U.S. immigration enforcement using military hardware and tactics on civilian. And they write the story about the apartment building. I think this was in Chicago, South Side. And essentially, the ICE people use like chainsaws, helicopters, door to door. They're saying your flashbang, grenades is the same kind of tactics that are used in military. I remember Trump is at a point where he was saying that it's the enemy within, and you can use the USA as training grounds. All this stuff fits in together because, again, I'm trying to tell you is that don't necessarily believe what the Trump people say. And this is why you want independent news agencies to essentially be watchdogs of, the government. Now listen to Fox News and what they're talking about today, and just have a listen.
I mean, on Friday, if you're saying there's going to be 100% tariff on China, you make moves, you make trades based on that. And on Sunday, it's like, well, no, I was just kidding. It just makes it very difficult to be a long-term investor when the government seems to be thinking more short-term than anyone else.
Jackie.
This is not Taco. This is how he does it. This is how he negotiates. I think the markets are starting to understand that. How do you prepare when you're an investor? You keep a calm head. So you didn't sell stock on Friday, and maybe you used it as a buying opportunity. Now he comes out on Sunday, he says, don't worry about it, everything's going to be okay. I told you, and this is my personal opinion, when he was talking about the shutdown in the military, and he said, don't worry about it, you're going to get paid. I believe him because I've seen how he does things. This is part of his negotiation.
Okay, so this is how you identify this kind of stuff. When a news outlet, in this example of Fox News, is always telling you, believe in Trump. Believe in Trump. That's literally their theme every day. Believe in Trump. Have patience. Believe in Trump. Your rewards will be in heaven. Basically, the one ends up being. And what I try to guys on the channel, and I want you to be able to identify outlets that you watch. Doesn't matter, YouTube or otherwise. If people are constantly telling you what to feel, don't trust them. I'm not being frank with you guys. The things that you want to be finding is people that tell you what's going on. So, for example, what's the story of today? The story is people worried about getting paid. Right? And then we'll talk about people we worry about getting paid, which I think is a very real concern. And then I like to hear from people in the community on the ground, as I always ask you, what's your experiences? Are you getting paid? Are your friends getting paid? Your neighbors getting paid? And it changes the discussion, opposed to just believe in Trump. Everything's going to work out great. And that's when it becomes, this isn't really news anymore, right? It just becomes basically like going to church. Watching right-wing stuff is like going to church at this point, right? Just keep that faith alive, I guess. And this is sort of where I try to show you guys, like, just facts. We're just talking about it. So, for example, 2 industries were supposed to drive America's future. One is booming, the other is slumping. And this has been actually a big theme in the markets, is AI and manufacturing. Trump promised all your factory jobs would come back. And then at the same time, they're working very hard to replace all of you with robots and AI. So for example, this is what it says. Both AI and manufacturing have been in the spotlight in Washington, right, D.C. Through successive administrations, President Trump this year said he'd do, quote, whatever it takes to lead the world in artificial intelligence, okay? While also he championed stemming a decades-long slide in American manufacturing as a top goal. But while AI is flourishing, manufacturing entering an even deeper slump. And so this is a chart here. You can actually see data centers, right? Construction is going up, manufacturing is going down. And I've told you guys this stuff several times, and I notice it that many of the, say left-wing channels that you guys watch, they don't mention this stuff. The right-wing channels don't really mention this stuff either. And it's like mostly the financial news. And I always tell you the truth is, follow the money. Don't ignore the money things. Because this whole thing is based on why people have a lot of angst, right? People are a lot of uncertainty, is they're worried about jobs. And so then when Trump's whole policy is, hey, we're going to get, all this investment and everything's going to be going again. But then when you dig under the surface, which isn't that hard because literally it's all over the business and financial news, that markets are being driven by AI investment. Like, how does that play out long term? Automation AI's ultimate goal is to replace people. And I just want to tell you the truth on these things. I don't think I'm saying anything crazy. And it's frustrating to me that this isn't a bigger discussion. Usually most of the stuff you see is, Trump taco this, which is part of the discussion. And we do acknowledge that. But there's much more, because even if, like I was saying, Trump settles his, trade thing with China, you still have the underlying goal that Trump and Elon Musk's ultimate goal is to replace everyone, fire one and replace everyone. And I think this is probably the most important thing that we should be talking about, because it's unsustainable. Where is the USA going to be if it's a consumer-based economy with no consumers? So for example, this says here, one interesting implication of all this will be that this AI spending boom is likely to create less jobs, particularly blue-collar ones, than previous waves. And that's coming from JP Morgan, what they say. And then they give you some numbers. American manufacturers employed some 19.5 million workers at the industry's 1979 peak. So that was a while ago already, I guess, the peak of this manufacturing workers, that is, in the USA. That number has since shrunk to fewer than 13 million, including losing an estimated 78,000 more positions in the one-year period ending in August. I've mentioned this documentary several times. I encourage you guys to check it out. It's called American Factory, and it sort of covers differences between U.S. and China manufacturing. And just please check it out if you haven't seen it. It's on Netflix. This is an older movie, which is basically an earlier version of American Factory. This is a fictional story, but it does tell the era and a real thing that was happening in the USA. And this is with Michael Keaton. It's about basically a Japanese car manufacturer opens up. I don't remember what state this might be. We'll just say like Ohio or something like that. It's a good movie. I like it. I showed it in class, parts of it, the same way I would show American Factory. And this is the question. And again, a lot of the stuff, say the discussions in USA, all centers around is what are we talking about, right? What's the most important discussion? So oftentimes, people are saying, basically in the right-wing circles, like, oh, we're just going to, blame that black and brown people are taking my jobs, blame other countries for taking the jobs, etc. But why don't we ever have this discussion? Just for example, what does it say here? Elon Musk praises Chinese workers for burning the 3M oil. Here's what that really looks like. Many people on the right will like worship Elon Musk. They say he's just the most awesomest person in the whole world. Yet Elon wants to fire you, and he employs 20,000 people in China. And I'm not against people having jobs in China. I'm not against that. But I just want to make it clear is when the oligarchs, people like Elon Musk or Donald Trump, get you hating on your fellow workers, what you should be asking, if you want to play that game, right? If you want to play that game, why don't people question Elon? Why don't you build your factory in Detroit? Elon, why don't you build your factory in Miami or whatever, right? Because I'm just looking at, it's all public, right? 20,000 workers are in Shanghai, And this is a discussion that you'll never have in USA. No one ever, in Fox News, they don't ever question Elon Musk for building a factory in Shanghai. This is just a reality. This is just a fact. And that's the question I always pose to you. And I'm not against, say, American companies having factories overseas. But what becomes very hypocritical and ridiculous is that, again, the whole Trump thing is all about blaming black and brown people. Yet, why don't we ever talk about Elon Musk? And why don't you create jobs in USA? Because you could build all the cars in Tesla theoretically, right? You totally could. You could build all the Tesla cars in USA if you really wanted to. And this is something that, it changes your perspective when you travel. I write about this stuff in my book. It's called Positive Angle. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, this is my wife and I here in Busan. This is in Korea. We just went to go see a movie recently. This is the neighborhood. And for people who've never been here, you don't know what it looks like. That's what it looks like here in Busan. Here's another view of it. I just took these yesterday. It's been pretty nice weather around here. This is what it looks like. And if you've never been in these places, right, and this is another example of Toyoung on our vlog channel, you have no idea sort of what goes on in the outside world, and you just think that essentially everywhere else is really, really bad, and USA is the best place in the whole world to live. There are many people who believe that in the USA, and I always emphasize this, get a passport, go travel, and you realize that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of great countries to visit, there's a lot of great people to meet, and the world is really big, and it changes your view entirely. And then you have a story like this, which is often ignored among, most news outlets because it's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it does affect real people's lives. So for example, these are coal miners, and they were promised, all these jobs by Trump, and oh my God, Trump's going to bring back all the coal mining jobs. But then as it turns out, the Trump people want to deregulate everything, so the job's going to be really unsafe. And black lung disease is no joke. And anyone who's lived in these regions, you'll probably know a family member or something like this. And this is just a reality, right? And then Trump will try to cut your benefits or cut any sort of healthcare things. And basically, this is why lives don't get better, because people don't necessarily pay attention to what Trump is doing. They'll just look at the big promises, and it doesn't necessarily come through the way that they want it to. Or something like this: furloughed federal workers turn to side hustles to survive the shutdown. It's gotten so bad in USA that people can't make ends meet, and they have to take side jobs because their main job may or may not pay. I have real concerns about all of these effects on the workers. And again, Trump and Musk's plan is to invest in AI and robots, but it's completely unsustainable, and do be careful out there. I think we're heading in the wrong path. That's my opinion. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you all in the next video.